Howdy-o, folks. Welcome to a brand new series on my channel, The Survivor Manual. In this series, each episode you're gonna shine lights on one of the ARK's creatures. It could be anything from vanilla ones to modded ones. So I hope you guys enjoy it and get benefits from it. And if you like, you can always leave your suggestions. Without further ado, let's get into it. So for the first episode, we have the newly released Ceratosaurus by one of the great mods, the ARK Additions. While I'll be talking about this dino, I'm gonna break it down into sections for you. First things first is design. The design of this creature is one of the spikiest. It has spikes all around its body, accumulated more around its tails. Even its chest is covered with spikes. It also got 3 horns, accurately representing the scientific evidence of this dino. What's even more scientific and interesting is the claws. You can see that it has the 4th finger but looks chopped. However, that is not true. Through my research, I found out that the skeleton have a small phalanx that looks underdeveloped. That is why the devs of the ARK Additions have decided to give it this look. Indeed, one of the most amazing details that signifies how professional these devs are. Shout out to the developers of this creature. Overall, the design is excellent. In my opinion, it is the best implementation of the Ceratosaurus compared to the other Ceratosaurus mods in ARK. Next up is their habitat. Ceratosaurus can be found on the island, and there are variants on the Genesis Part 2. In the change notes, it says they live in the grasslands and the jungle biomes. Surprisingly, they are pretty common, especially on the island. However, opposite can be said about there are versions. I had no luck finding them in the Rockwell Garden whatsoever, so I guess you don't have to bother looking for them there. And on the eastern side, they are not easily found either. I happen to find them exclusively on the upper right side of the map. So if you want our Ceratosaurus, just look up there. Now let's go over the taming. In order to tame them, you're first going to need to make one of these, the hemoglobin cocktail. They can be learned at level 75 and can be crafted from your inventory. Using 15 blood packs, 10 Cerato venom spikes, and 10 narcotics. You can extract your blood with the blood syringe and make narcotic the usual way. And for the Cerato spikes, they can be found inside their inventory when killed. So basically you have to hunt for them. As you can see, after you have collected all of these, you go ahead and craft them. You're only going to need 1 per tame. After you made yourself one of these, you're then going to need a mount. A tanky one preferably, and trust me, when I say tanky, I mean it, because these things can shred. Then you head to the Ceratosaur and make sure the surrounding is safe. Then you need to force feed your creature one of the hemoglobin cocktails. This is going to attract the Ceratosaur to attack your tame. All you have to do at this stage is to back it off until it gets blood drunk. How are you going to know? Well, the game lets you see the progress as the numbers pop out of the Ceratosaur. Once it reaches 100%, it gets completely drunk and leaves your tame alone. This is when you can passively feed it. You can use kibbles, muttons, or prime meat. In this case, I'm gonna use prime meat because it is easier to get. And from this point and beyond, you know how the taming goes. As for their saddle, they can be unlocked at level 75 and can be crafted from your inventory as well. Requires 20 metal ingots, hide and fiber. It is really cheap in terms of resources. Before we move on, just for reference, my mammoth had 10k health. Now it has less than half of that. Remind you that my Ceratosaur was level 66, so consider a tanky tame. Now their abilities and performances. A tame Cerato has a standard bite when pressing the left click. It can also turn rapidly and attack to the sides when the camera angle changes. and a venom inflicting horn thrust and tail spin with a press of the right click, depending on the camera angle. For example, we're looking at the sides, right click does the tail spin, but when looking forward or slightly downward, it does the horn thrust. Upon pressing Ctrl, Cerato will do a menacing roar. However, it doesn't have any effect, it is just for aesthetic. Ceratosaurus also have a running speed bar just above the player's hotbar. When pressing shift, the bar fills up gradually and the Ceratosaurus speed increases. When it reaches about 75%, Ceratosaurus gains a speed boost and breaks and destroys the rocks and trees on its path. When running at this speed, releasing the shift button will make the Ceratosaurus to skid across as it slows down. Unlike the Andrewsarchus, it doesn't work by just changing the camera angle. This can be useful when changing directions without having to turn in a large turning radius. Another cool thing you can do at this speed is when you hold right click, it performs a more powerful horn thrust, but your speed reduces to 0. In terms of stats, Cerato have a decent amount of health. 7800 health was the highest I could get, and with 490% damage, mine does 147 damage with normal bite, 196 with right click. Now let's talk about the venom infliction. Like I explained earlier, with right click you can inflict poisonous damage onto enemies. In the dossier it mentions that it heals nearby carnivores. However, I didn't bother to test that, but indeed it does heal your own Cerato. Like you just saw the plus 50 number popping out, the more the number of attack you perform, the greater the healing amount. But don't underestimate this ability because what you will see later will shock you, so stay till the end. And finally, can they enter the boss arenas? Well, I gathered my Ceratosaurus and head to the obelisk. Then I started the boss fight, so see for yourself. Yes, they can, and what you're about to see is magic. Guys, you will be surprised how strong these creatures are against the bosses. Like you see here, the poison effect is just so OP against the boss creatures. It just increases indefinitely. This ability was mentioned in the last sentence in the Ceratosaurus dossier, and I cracked the code. So, it reads, I have witnessed tribes that have managed to tame these beasts, use it to great effects against larger threats, and even the Island Guardian. Perhaps this desire to devour envenomed prey can be used against them? Question mark. So yeah, I had to test that and see. These are excellent boss creatures. You can see that I'm wrecking the broodmother's faces with only 7 of these. They're not even saddled. These things are OP as shits. So folks, this is everything you need to know about ARK Additions Ceratosaur. If you did enjoy, subscribe and leave us a like. Meet you up all in the next episode, and bye bye.